day 52, I think. I don't know. I think. We'll see when I upload it. Then I'll be like, well, was I right? Was I wrong? So a little late one for you here today. Coming in late. I had a busy day. Basically was cleaning some Airbnbs. And then went and checked out the surf to see if I was like feeling up for surfing, but way too tired. I was like staring at it. I'm like, oh, I should go. And I was like, oh no, I'm so sleepy. And my teeth, I had a little bit of wine, so they're a little bit stained. Anyways, whatever. So what I wanted to come on here today and talk to you is spiritual awakenings. So there's like a lot of like in the spiritual world, there's a lot of words just like spiritual awakening, dark night of the soul, and ego death. And I'm going to talk about all those three today. And the reason why I want to talk about them is because sometimes they are happening and we don't know that's what we're going through. And it gives, I find it gives you like kind of it's understanding of what's happening in your life and why you're going what you're going through, especially if you're tapped into spirituality or you are interested in spirituality. It will make more sense, and it reframes your mind around it. It reframes your perspective around it, and so which allows you to look at it differently, look at it from a different perspective, look at it and like kind of navigate through it. And once you shift your perspective on it, then you can have the aha moments and the answers that you are looking for to get out, like, well, not get out, but like move forward from that and let go of what is holding you back and being able to see like what exactly is holding you back. Now, spiritual awakenings, ego death, dark night of the soul look differently for every single person. Like, maybe what I might share will resonate with you. It might not. It doesn't mean that you, like, if it doesn't resonate, that you haven't gone through any of that. It looks different for everybody. It's not the same because we're all different human beings. We're all different souls that have come into this world, and that we're not all going to have like the same contract or the same way something may look like. And it's also perception again, which I've spoken about. And so I'll start with spiritual awakening. So spiritual awakening, the way I like to define it is, you're going about your life. Everything is fine. It's not like amazing, but you're content. You're like, okay, I got my job, like maybe you have a partner and you're just like, okay, things are okay. Like nothing crazy. Like life is normal. Like nothing out of the ordinary. You're having, you have your friends and then you go out, you have a good time with them and you come home, you chill. You may be doing a few hobbies here and there, but nothing, just life, right? And then one day, you start like looking into either self-help books, and you start thinking like, maybe there's more to life than just this. And you start thinking about maybe like you start looking to spirituality and you're like, ooh, like what's this about astrology and human design and crystals? Like, ooh, that looks interesting. Or maybe you decided to like reach out to someone to do a tarot reading for you. And you're like, I've never heard of this before. I'm a little bit skeptical, but I'm curious. Because it sounds fun. And like all this spiritual stuff, like witchy stuff sound fun. And you like look into like women's circles or, ways to find like-minded people who are to all things spirituality, like spells. And you're just like curious. You're just like, you're doing your life, but you just found this like something like that like has lit you up, and you're just like, "Ooh, what's this? Tell me more." And then you start noticing some weird synchronicities, some weird coincidences that you're like, this can't be. Oh, there's too many coincidences. You start either imagining something and nothing comes true, or someone says something that you were thinking about, or you see a sign that, the spiritual, either like psychic medium, said about like when they did your card reading. And you start noticing, and you're like, all these coincidences, like, there's something, this is weird. There's like, it's too many coincidences. Like, what the hell? And then the universe is like, they're ready. Let's go. And all of a sudden, shit in your life hits the fan. A bunch of things start going wrong. It becomes overwhelming. It could be anything and everything. It could be like, your romantic life. It could be your career. It could be your health. It could be, like, it just like you feeling depressed. Like, it just, shit hits the fan. And so all of a sudden one day you were like, oh yeah, life is good. Can't complain. It's whatever. Nothing special. And then the next day you're like, what the fuck just happened? And you're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed, like a bunch of shit just happened. A lot of patterns that you've seen happen before happen again. And you're like, why is this happening again? Like, again, this is happening? Like, it's been happening every single time. And the patterns can be, like, same situation, like from different relationships, or it could be like the way you've been let go at every job, or it could be a recurring health problem. It could be many things. And so all of a sudden you're just like, what the fuck? Why does this keep happening to me? Your mind goes like right into like victim mentality. You're like, I don't understand, why is this happening to me? I don't understand what is going on. And spiritual awakenings, you go down deep place, and you don't want to see many people sometimes. Sometimes you'll rather stay in your own little world. Maybe like, maybe you don't want to be around social media at all. You don't want to talk to people. It's just too much because you're just trying to navigate your own shit. And so this is what a spiritual awakening may look like for you. It looks like differently for many people, but that is like my perception and my experience, is that either like it's like kind of like everything goes wrong all at once, and you just get into this very dark, depressive state, and it's overwhelming, and you don't know what to do. You struggle seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but you keep going, right? You keep going, you keep taking one step forward, but it's just like you're like, why, what the hell's going on? Or it could be like multiple things happen in your past that, maybe that you haven't processed through emotionally, and you thought you did. Sometimes we think we heal certain parts from our past, or we process certain things from our past, but sometimes we don't. We think we do, but we actually don't. It actually gets pushed under the rug. And another version of this would be like all those emotions come up again. Everything that you've suppressed for so long surface up. Could be that. Be many different things. And so spiritual awakenings, no, they're not fun. They're not fun. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. But there's a reason they're happening. And it's basically the reason why it's called awakening. It's like, it's your wake-up call to come home to you. It's your wake-up call to realize who you really are. And a deep healing needs to happen for you to get there. And so shifting our mindset a lot from the victim mentality, which is like, why is this happening to me, as to like, it's not happening to me, this is happening for me. So that's like, if you are going through that right now, that's one way to like shift it. And I did find it helped a lot in my spiritual awakening that I had a spiritual mentor. It really helped because she was able to explain to me certain things I didn't understand. And she was also able to hold space for me. And also guide me to go deep and see where there were the things that I needed to heal. And so having that is really important. Now, I can be that person, but there's many other people like available that can be those people as well. So definitely go with someone you feel right. And if that person is me, like send me a message. And if it's someone else, that's all good. But I do highly recommend for spiritual awakenings to have a spiritual mentor, a spiritual guide, a spiritual coach to help you through this time, because we all have gone through it. We know what it's like, and we know how dark it can get, and we know how shitty it can feel. And so we can hold space for you for that. And so it is important, because when you start the healing process and you really dig deep as to the wounds that lie there. And I remember this session with my mentor, that it was like in January. It was like basically like in the shit of my spiritual awakening. And I was just like struggling that whole month. Like I couldn't see like light at the end of the tunnel. Very much victim mentality mode of like, why is this happening to me? Like, what the hell? What's going on? And I had this session with her, and it was a breakthrough session for sure. I think it was like, must have been our like second or third session. So like, it wasn't even like the first one, and that's okay. It was in a divine timing, as we like to say. And we went deep in that session, and that was when I figured out that one of my limiting beliefs was like, I didn't believe I was worthy. And by just like going that deep with her and breaking down and realizing it, that is something I told myself. After that session, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I felt lighter than I ever had felt before. Like before that, I don't think I've like physically felt lighter. That makes sense. After that, I felt lighter. And while going through the spiritual journey, there's been a lot of moments like that where I'll release something, whether it's through crying, breath work, energy healing. And then I would feel lighter. And this sense of lightness is something that, it's like, when you're holding on to something like a secret, or you're holding onto the secret, and you need to like tell this person, or something that you need to communicate, and you feel really bad, you don't want to tell them, and it's like you're trying to avoid the confrontation. But then when you like tell them, you're like, oh, it's like that, but like your entire body feels it, and it's like 10 times better. And that's the power of healing. It's crazy. So yeah, like you do have like I said, where there's dark, there's light, you know, so you do have those like deep, dark moments where you're breaking down, where you're depressed and everything is shit and can't see the light of the end of the tunnel. But the other side is like legit light. Like you feel light. It's crazy. So I remember that. I remember like literally breaking down, and then that afternoon just being like, oh my God, I feel amazing. Like, and that was that moment where I realized that I was able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that it was when I realized how powerful during these moments it is to have someone there to guide you. Whoever it is, that understands what you're going through. Because had it not been for her, would I have gotten there? Like, would I have seen the light eventually at the end of the tunnel? Yeah, eventually I would have like figured it out somehow. But in that way, in the way I figured out, and having somebody to hold space for me with all that, and probably like figured out much faster with her versus me doing it on my own. Yeah, it was definitely powerful. And so that is basically spiritual awakenings, to give you an example. And if you've gone through a spiritual awakening and you're watching this video, like, please like comment, let me know it was your experience. That was like kind of like part of mine. And after, like, so once you go through this awakening, right, like with the awakening, you start healing, start tapping into spirituality in your own way, and what feels right, meditating, working with crystals, tarot cards, start talking to your spirit guides. I'm just throwing examples, doing chakra work, like maybe getting into yoga, working with the moon cycle, learning about astrology, human design, all those things. But then after that, because you've started this healing process, there's something called Dark Night of Soul, and after Dark Night of Soul comes an ego death. And so Dark Night of a Soul is basically kind of like your spiritual awakening, basically. And they happen through your spiritual journey, through moments in your spiritual journey. And it's basically dark periods in your life. And sometimes Dark Nights of the Soul can be a long period of time. Other times there's just short period of time, like maybe a couple of days. It depends. Each Dark Night of the Soul looks different. And it will look different than your spiritual awakening. But it's basically like something happens either externally or internally. And I think I've spoken about tower moments in one of my posts. But it's basically like something happens externally or internally. And things crumble. And things crumble either within you or in the outside of you. And you go through a dark period. And in Gene Keys, if you like look at Gene Keys through this period, like through the shadow, is where you figure out your gifts. And so Dark Night of Soul, like sitting in those low emotions, sitting in the shadows, surrendering to that, as uncomfortable as it is, you will realize your gifts, and you will see what like needs to be healed, and you will begin healing that. You will see where certain wounds come from, and you would understand why certain things are the way they are, like why certain patterns kept repeating themselves. And then you like, oh my God, okay, now I understand why those patterns repeated themselves. I'm going to break them. And so ego death is basically like, letting go of part of you so that you can open up space for a newer part of you to come in. And that is the best way I can explain it. it's basically growth, growth and evolution and change, like changing who you are so that you can step into the highest version of yourself. That's basically what it is. And it's understanding also like what is your ego and what is your inner child, like what is your higher self, who is your present self, understanding the different archetypes within you. And by understanding that, you can, at times, that's when you can decide who's going to be the driver of your vehicle. And there are times where it's going to be your ego, it's going to be your inner child, and that's okay. And then there are times where you have you have more of a conscious choice, and you're more aware, and you're tapping into your higher self, and that's who's going to be a driver. Your ego is going to always be there. Your ego is not going to go away. And so it's just through time in your spiritual journey, it doesn't become the driver. It may be the driver in certain parts of your life, and that's normal because your ego is your survival. You need your ego to survive. Without it, you won't be able to live. But you'll be able to recognize your wounds, your fears. You'll be more self-aware of who you are, and you'll begin being more compassionate and loving towards yourself in many different ways. And then you'll see the world differently too. You'll understand the world a little differently. You'll understand people a little differently. And sometimes, you will get an ego and get triggered by people, and that's only normal. We all get it. So, that's basically some of the terminology. And so, I wanted to explain it to you because my ego, my logical mind, likes to understand what's going on, especially when, during dark periods of life, whether they are caused internally or externally. I like to understand what's going on. I like to understand the bigger picture. I like understanding that this is for my highest good, and that there is a reason why I'm going through these periods, and there is something that I'm learning through all this, and that I'm growing and shifting my mindset around that. And I've gone through many dark nights of the soul, and I've come out the other side, and it's worth it. It's worth it, I'm telling you. In the moment, it may not feel like it, but once you get through a few dark nights of the soul, you can handle whatever comes. And they don't all look the same. So if you're going through one right now, the next one probably won't look the same. It may or may not. So don't get too caught up in that. Just look at it as a way of that you're growing and evolving, and it's a way for you to tap into who you are, figure out your gifts, your soul's purpose, and being able to share your gifts with everybody else, because that's pretty damn cool. And living a life that maybe doesn't make sense, but it lights you up. And I think that's what a lot of us want. A lot of us want a life that we're excited for, a life that, we just get giddy and we're happy and we're grateful with everything we have around us. And that it's not boring. It's not the what I said earlier, okay, well, it's good. And then sometimes certain dark nights of the soul can be exciting and adventurous, and it throws your world upside down, but you're hey, life is not boring anymore. So different perspectives. And so that is day 52. If this live resonated, please like, share, or comment. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.